Welcome to Momma-Sota, the podcast where we dive headfirst into the beautiful mess of motherhood. I'm your host, Monica Eichman, and I'm here to keep it real. In a world that changes by the minute, parenting can often feel like an uphill battle. We all want what's best for our children, but what that best looks like varies for every one of us. Momma-Sota is your passport to the unfiltered, unapologetic world of mommy. No perfectly edited snapshots or unattainable ideals here. We're here to share the ups and downs, the triumphs and tantrums, the mess and the beauty of being a mom. Join me as we explore the raw and authentic side of parenting. This is your safe space to vent, laugh, and learn as we navigate the unpredictable journey of raising strong, capable, and independent children for the future. Hey mamas, welcome to today's episode of Momma-Sota. Of course, it's me, your host, Monica Eichman. I'm a stay-at-home mom to 3 awesome children, ages 7.5, 4.5, and just about 2 years old. They are the why to almost everything I do all day long, and always pushing me to learn and grow as a mother. Joining us today is special guest Claudia Camargo. She is a lifestyle blogger and digital creator behind Miles and Smiles, as well as the mother of an 11-month-old baby girl. Welcome, Claudia, and thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for the invite. And she actually just turned 1, like 2 weeks ago.
Right.
So,
Well,
yeah.
happy birthday.
Yeah.
So talking about yourself and your life is obviously something you're familiar with as a lifestyle blogger. So why don't you start by telling us more than just about you, where you come from, and your family?
Yeah, so my husband and I are both from Colombia, South America. We both migrated to the States separately. Our love story goes back to Colombia when we were like in middle school, but we kind of reunited here in the US, in Miami when we went to school. I've been all over the US. I feel like I landed in Maryland when we got here with my parents. Then I moved to Miami for school, started my career there. Then I moved to Austin, Texas, again for another career move. Was there for 4 years, and then I moved to Miami for a little bit, got married with my husband, and then we moved here to Minnesota almost 9 years ago. So yeah, it's been quite a whirlwind. I am a creative director in advertising and marketing. And yeah, I'm mom as of a year ago. So, of a beautiful IVF baby, which is another layer to this complex world of motherhood and IVF and the world we live in right now.
Well, that kind of leads me into, I guess, kind of where I was going to start. Most people with, marriage, it's either they've got kids and then marriage comes right after a marriage and the kids come quickly after. But you are 9 years married,
Yeah.
1 year baby girl. So tell us more about like what led to or with the gap or in between getting married and having your first child.
Yeah, I think it came down to like feeling like it was the right time, even though I am 38, my husband is 39, but it just felt we had just so many things we wanted to explore, feeling like we wanted to settle down in Minnesota, buying a house right before the pandemic. Like, I don't think none of those things were a plan before because I've always been a nomad because of my job and my profession. But I think after the pandemic, it just felt like this was home. We bought a house. We spent so much time inside the house because of the pandemic. So all those changes, I think, kind of led us. And even before the pandemic, we tried to start a family. I want to say like 4 years into living in Minnesota, but it just wasn't happening. We did all the testing and everything, and it took us about 2 to 3 years to finally decide, okay, let's try IVF, which it was another 2-year process. Due to a lot of things, I got laid off in the middle of the first IVF round. And so it's just a matter of timing. But I also recently saw, I don't know if you saw an interview with Eva Mendes and how she really enjoys being an older mother. Because back in when I was 22, I was partying in Miami. I don't think I would have been doing the right decisions for my baby, at least for me. And I'll speak very much personally in my personal experience. I really enjoyed my 20s. I partied myself up in Miami. I moved everywhere, but now like you felt like, all right, we're settling in. This is home. This is family. And my husband and I were able to travel and do all the things we wanted to do, and it felt like the right time.
So and maybe you had kind of said it with the work before, but what led you guys to Minnesota?
Yep. So I got a job at Target Corporation. I moved here because they offered me a job as a senior art director for this style team. Never was in our bucket list to live here. It has been quite the surprise, and we actually love it. We have learned to grow to love it. It was a culture shock at the beginning, I'm not gonna lie, because my husband and I come from a very different background. In Miami, there's so many like Latinos and Colombians and Colombian food and very different. So coming here and also working at giant corporation, it was a culture shock, but it was, I think, a change we kind of needed at the time to kind of also grow up as a couple, as personal growth. So it was an interesting shift.
I was say not only the culture shock, but also the weather. I know you said you were in Maryland with your parents.
Yeah.
So how long had you been there?
I didn't spend much in Maryland. I think it was maybe like 2, 3 years. And then I was like, I'm done. Because of that, I was like, I don't want to deal with the snow. And then look at me living in Minneapolis, which is a wild kind of full circle moment. But I feel like at the beginning, it was kind of like an adventure. We were really excited about like the extreme weather that everyone kept talking about. I think now it's kind of starting to be like, okay, well, but at the beginning, it was really fun. I must say that.
So what would you say then too would be kind of like the biggest adjustment for you and your husband, because you did have those 9 years of marriage, just the two of you, to now
Yeah.
having baby?
It was hard. And it was one of my biggest fears before going into IVF and actually doing it, because that's the magic and the curse of IVF. You literally know when you get pregnant. You see it when it happens. But it was one of my biggest fears that our relationship would change, and it did. I think in my mind, I always wanted to put our relationship first, but I mean, as you know, your brain chemistry just changes, and my
Mm-hmm.
daughter just kind of overtook every single place in my brain. I also got laid off a month before having Allie, my baby. So I think that also really put my brain into fight or flight mode of like, I need to do whatever I need to do to keep this baby good. My husband did too. So not only becoming new parents, shifting our relationship, but also the unemployment part and not knowing how we were going to be able to make ends meet. I think it put a lot of strain in our relationship, and just getting to know how to be, me learning to be a mom and him getting to learn how to be a father of a girl. It was tough, but it's been a learning process. I think, what is it, I've heard that people say that if you make it through the first year, then you're good. So it was a lot of learnings through this year, and I think we're now navigating a lot of things better. But at the beginning, I must say it was tough. There was a lot of times that I was like, I don't know if we can stay together for the sake of our daughter. It's not fair for her to see two unhappy parents who are struggling every day. There were moments that we were just roommates and we barely talked to each other. It was hard, but it was with a lot of love and a lot of therapy and a lot of personal growth. I was also recently diagnosed with postpartum depression, so I'm also just starting that journey with antidepressants and trying to figure out things. But it wasn't until recently that I had the courage to kind of like take the leap and like, okay, I need to do some work on myself to help our family keep thriving and to help Ali see happy parents and also model a good relationship for her in the future. I think that's the biggest thing in my mind. I'm a big feminist, and so for me to model what a woman is, what a mother can be if she ever chooses to be a mother, what she can become, and the love that she should accept in her life later on from a partner, it's been just such a big burden, but also something that because I want to do it so perfectly. And I think that's being a mom, you just want to do what's best for your kids. But sometimes you overthink it and you overdo it and you end up going the opposite way. So
That's so true. I know, like I said, it's like my kids are my why, but for everything I do all day long, all the decisions I make is, for my children. And same thing, my husband and I, we had our first child a year and a half after we got married, but we got married on our 9-year anniversary of dating. So we had also had plenty of time together, just the two of us. And same thing for me, it was just that mental shift and him being like, okay, what happened here? I was your whole world. I was everything, and now the child is your whole world.
yeah, it's a shift that you don't anticipate until it hits you.
Exactly.
It's hard to like understand when do I stop, but it's also like your brain is wired to protect this little thing that was inside of you. So as a mother, for me, it was really hard to know when to to stop. And there were a lot of instances when my husband said, I need you to like remember us. I need you. And I was like, I can't because my daughter needs me right now. So all I could think is putting her first. So it was a couple of like really hard months.
Well, and just know too, like, you've learned through that and worked through that, but don't be surprised. And I say this in like a loving way, but if some of that like comes back around through different phases of life, because that's something that, like I said, we have a 7.5-year-old. Our youngest is just about 2. And we're kind of hitting that a little bit again, just because we're getting so busy with sports and so busy with everything. And I'm still nursing. And my husband's like, well, I want to do date nights and I want to do this. I'm like, well, we can only be gone this long. My baby needs me.
Right. Yeah.
And then also, I just want to touch a little bit more on and congratulate you on your journey with the mental health and recognizing that you do need to put yourself and your mental health first and getting help with the postpartum depression, because I know we're trying to shift that, but there's still a big stigma on that sort of thing.
Yeah. I think it was a journey, and it was a journey that I had to battle with myself. And I've been always a huge advocate for therapy. I've been in therapy for almost like a decade now. But I think I encountered a lot of people at the beginning that would tell me, don't cry. Because I would get very emotional with every single conversation. I would get very emotional, even if it was like somebody leaving the little burp cloth where it doesn't belong, or like the dog. Like I would get so emotional because I'm like, that can bring germs to my baby. I would get very protective and I would cry. And so someone once told me, don't cry. And I was like, it was hard for me to realize that society still expects a mother to show up and be joyful because you just had a baby. And I fought for that. And I think I'm still standing for that. Like, no, if you need to cry, you gotta cry. Especially in the first 2 years after postpartum, it's like your feelings are very much valid. Whatever you need to feel it. I think I also had a lot of postpartum rage and resentment towards my husband. But it wasn't, I had to start vocalizing those things of like, I am mad because you get to take a nap whenever you want. I am mad because, and it's not your fault. It's just, but this is what I'm feeling.
Right.
It took a lot for him also to like understand, because it's hard. It's hard to hear those things from your partner, the person that you've known, in our case, 9+ years, to hear that it's hard. But I also feel like I lost myself into my daughter and being a mother, and it's a part of myself that I love, because I love being a mother. I have that huge connection with my daughter. But I lost myself because I lost also like who I was as a professional, right? So I didn't have a job to go back to, which I was blessed, but also like, then who am I after giving birth? I kind of tried to keep up with content at the time, but also giving myself grace and into healing, because I had a C-section and a little bit of a complication there. But I think the biggest takeaway was eventually I had to, with the help of my husband, I think he pushed me a lot into like making the leap to taking some antidepressants and just taking the edge off. I think my biggest thing, and what to your point before, the stigma behind all of this, is that antidepressants will like kind of like make you drowsy and like out of it. And that was my biggest fear. I was like, what if I have to take care of Allie at that point and I'm like drowsy? Like, no, I can't. So understanding just modern medicine, that there is some of that are very low and that can just like take the edge off. I talked about it with my therapist, talked about it with my doctor, and then almost 2 months ago I started them, and it has helped tremendously to navigate some of those moments where I would explode before and just be so caught up in my thoughts that now I just kind of, this bothered me, but okay, let's keep going. It's not as intense as before. So I'm grateful. I think it's helping me kind of move on. And obviously the plan long term is to kind of learn to cope with some of these things myself, but I'm just getting to learn how to be a mom, and it's a lot at the same time.
No, I think like you said too, like you're already dealing with the change of who you are and feeling like you already lost a part of you. And I think sometimes with, different medications, and we talk about, like you said, the side effects, and not just, like dizziness or something like that, but you're like a side effect that might change me more as a person of who I am, and that fear of that.
Yeah. Yeah. it's hard. But there's just like you said, there's so much stigma behind that. Like, oh, you're that messed up that you have to take antidepressants. Like, no, it's not being messed up. It's something to help you get out of that hole where it's not that I'm not in it every day at all times, but when it gets to that point, it's pretty hard. So anyway, I'm glad I explored it. I'm glad I'm here 2 months later, and I'm hoping that whoever listens to this understands that there is help out there, that you're not alone. Therapy, there's medicine, there's mom groups. I know you have more questions about like connections and community that I've done, but yeah, I just want to encourage whoever's listening to like there's tools out there for you.
So, like you said, with some of that other community and basis there, what unique challenges do you face as a new mom in your community at kind of like you said, an older age for your first child also?
So I think our biggest thing is we don't have family nearby. It's just me and my husband, and we hire a nanny as of 3 months ago. So she's part of our village. That's about it. I think coming from a different culture, even within the United States, the Midwest, specifically Minneapolis or Minnesota, they're very nice to you, but they're not very open to, or maybe because they don't want to impose, or like, but we didn't receive a lot of like offered to help or like let me bring you a meal after we came home with the baby. Like no one said that. So that was hard, not having a tribe, not having friends or family that you're like, oh, date night wasn't a thing until like I think like a month ago we went on our first date night. So our marriage suffered a lot because, and I recently saw this thing that like it's hard not having a village when the only person that can give you a break is your partner, who also needs a break themselves. It's really, really hard. So I think finding community, although I have some friends that also recently had babies, and I went early on when I was kind of experiencing all this really heavy moments. I went to parenting. They have new mom groups and classes. So I went there and I started with a couple ladies, and we made some connections, but it's never as deep as like your family, having them close by. So the village and relying on other people has been really tough because it just feels sometimes that it's just my husband and I. Especially like recently, I had to go to the ER about a month ago. I had to go to the ER. And I don't want my baby in the ER. So it's like, okay, so my husband had to stay home with her. And like, he was like, but I should be there with you. You're in
He's
pain.
like, but I want you at the ER with me.
Right. Yeah. So that was one of the eye-opening moments of like, oh my God, we really need family close by. So that's something that we are evaluating right now of like also for Allie and growing up. But how do we move forward from this?
And as both of your families in Colombia still?
No, my family lives in Maryland.
Oh, that's right. You had moved to Maryland. Yep.
Yep. And my husband's family, they do live in Colombia. Another layer to add to the complexity of postpartum and postpartum depression. I had a huge fallout with my parents. A month after I had my baby, they came to visit. They were supposed to stay for 2 weeks. They only stayed for one. So maybe that's a topic we can do a second part, because I think families and fallouts and boundaries with families, especially our younger generations like us, that we're very this is very different to what it used to be before. But so yeah, just to add a little bit to more of that postpartum depression because I didn't have that support from my mother and my father postpartum, and it's been almost, next month will be a year that we haven't talked at all. So
Well, yeah, we will definitely dive into that. I think, like you said, a part 2 might be a fantastic idea to just kind of talk about all of that. And but outside of that, excuse me, I know you were laid off right after you had her. Have you gone back to any type of corporate work, or are you just doing your own thing now?
yeah, so I finally landed a job about 3 months ago in an advertising agency. Gladly, I get to stay remote 100%. So I'm right here with my baby. The nanny's upstairs. I'm working from the basement, and baby's upstairs with the nanny, which I thought it was going to be easier, but actually it was very hard at the beginning because I could hear her crying, and my mama heart just wanted to be with her. And like, I'm like, I don't care about this meeting right now. I just need to be with my baby. So that was a learning curve for me of like letting go, letting the nanny do her thing. We hired her right on the peak of her stranger danger moment.
For
And
sure.
So that was also, it took them about 3 weeks to kind of like, okay, now they're like besties. But at the beginning, that transition was hard. But I think it was a great transition. Being at home, it gave me a little bit of peace of mind that I could just go up the stairs and she's right there. But yeah, I've been working for about 3 months now after 10 months of being with Allie 100% of my time.
So then how are you balancing your roles as, you've got wife and mom, you're doing your own thing with the lifestyle blogger, but then also working in the corporate world?
Yeah. So right now, actually, I had to put kind of the content stuff in the back burner because it was getting to be a little too much with a lot of shifts in our lives. Hopefully, I can share more about that later on. But just being a mom of a 1 year old is very different than being a mom of like a 6 year old or 6 month old, or there's so many changes with them, and she's
Just when
mobile.
you get something figured out, they throw another curve in there.
Yep, yeah, that's the one thing I've learned about motherhood is that nothing's permanent. Good things, bad things, everything passes. But I don't know if I've achieved balance. I don't know if I ever will. From what I hear from other moms, is just sometimes you just never do, and you kind of feel like you're half-assing some of it, and I'm okay with that as long as my daughter gets the best of me. So if work knows that at 4:30 p.m. I gotta go, and then if I have to log in back again after bedtime, then it is what it is. And if they have an issue, then I mean, I don't know what to tell you because my daughter comes first, and so those firm boundaries have helped with work specifically. But yeah, like I said, with content, kind of had to put a halt on it because we went through a very harsh sleep regression right after her 1 year birthday party. So that was a little intense about 3 weeks ago, but hopefully I can get back to it. And then as a wife, we're just trying our best to, as I told you before, kind of like do some more date nights. We just celebrated our 9th anniversary like a week ago, and just trying to be more mindful of how we talk to each other, because I feel like that's just the biggest, and communicating as much as possible of our needs, not assuming that the other person should know that you're tired, but like actually saying it.
It's funny because sometimes I feel like you're writing my story here.
Yeah.
Like we all look at everyone else thinking they have it all put together, but when we really peel back the layers and show our vulnerability, we're all actually struggling with the same things.
I know. It's just, I feel like we always think that the grass is greener on the other side, but we just, and I think that's one of the things that I've been thoughtful about in social media and in my channels is quote unquote influencer, but just like not every day is a good day, and for people to understand that. I think there was an influencer that I follow at the time. She had a baby around the same time, and she posted about how amazing. So she hired one of those like overnight doulas,
Mm-hmm.
right when her baby was born, and so she was sleeping. She was sleeping through the night, and it was great. And I just like, it gave me a lot of like anger because I'm like, why are you showing this when, first of all, half of the country is going through a very bad financial crisis. A lot of people cannot afford an overnight doula. That's a very much a privilege to do that. And not being thoughtful about sharing those things. And for me, I've always thought about that. Like, I don't want my life to seem perfect because it's not. I've gone through so much, and I have a pretty average home, and I don't want people to think that my life is perfect, because not at all. And I want to take this podcast, and whenever I post about it, as like the kind of opening up about my postpartum depression, because I haven't talked about it in my channels yet because I've been also focusing on the medicine, how I'm feeling, all these things. But I definitely want to start talking more about like it's real. I'm going through it, and kind of like destigmatizing postpartum depression, and that it's okay. That not every influencer has to figure it out as they show.
No, and that's just it. I think that's where the true like beauty in social media can be, in sharing like the actual struggles and sharing the chaos and sharing, because I feel like for most people that's the reality.
Yeah. And that's what people appreciate when you share those messy moments. I think when people is like, oh, that's relatable. I actually started unfollowing a lot of people where like, especially influencers, beauty, fashion influencers, where they just go on this lavish trips, or they're like buying clothes every single week. That's just not sustainable That's not reality for most people. And I don't want to keep like showing this to my followers because I feel like the biggest moments where people relate to me is when I'm a little bit more raw into my journey as a woman, as a professional, as now as a mom. But I think I need to do a better job showing that as a mom is not it's not always perfect.
Well, and that's like you said too, when you're looking at it and you're following those things, like you said, if you sit back and you're like, is this actually bringing me joy to see their vacation and their beauty, their, their clothes and their whatever. And it's not that we have to be mad that they have those things, but it's just like, if it's not bringing me joy, then what's, like, why am I wasting my time with that?
Yeah. Yeah. I 100% agree.
So moving back kind of into the culture piece of things, being in, like you said, not only are you in the United States, but like you're up north, Midwest, Minnesota. Are you guys, how would you say you're raising your daughter in terms of like, are you holding on to some of those cultural traditions and pieces, or is it more that Minnesota life that she's got going on?
I think it's a little bit of both. We like to celebrate the Minnesota in her because it was also never in our plans to have a little Minnesotan baby. So we love it. We love that she can. So we have already actually taken her to a Vikings game and just like showing her stuff that it's more from here. But also, it's really important for us for her to speak Spanish. So we try to only speak Spanish to her. Our nanny is also from Colombia, so the same type of Spanish. She only speaks to her in Spanish. We FaceTime her grandparents on my husband's side weekly. My sister is very much involved via FaceTime or text because it's just really important for us, for her to remember their faces. And whenever she gets to see them, like be like, oh, I know them. Like they're not strangers. And eventually, I mean, right now I'm working on my green card. Hopefully, I get that sorted out soon. But eventually, yeah, taking her to Colombia, getting her to know a little bit of our roots or her parents' roots and just to see like where she comes from. It would be very magical. I haven't been back to Colombia since I left, so 22 years ago. So when I go back
Wow.
now as a mom with my daughter, I'm gonna be a mess, an emotional mess when I land. And it's just gonna be so exciting. But yeah, we try to just and when my in-laws were here for 2 months during the holidays, and we have so many Colombian traditions, and so we tried to like do all of them. Even though Ali at the time was very little, she was like 3-4 months, but we sang all the songs and we did all the things that we do for the holidays because it's important for us to like start getting exposed to that, as well as I asked them to bring some books from Colombia and the Colombian history. So I want her to also, even like from like little kids books, but start understanding that there's another country called Colombia that we hold very dearly in our hearts.
So it's funny that you mentioned kids' books because I've thought about this before, like, again, talking about just the seasons in general. Like growing up in Minnesota, when they have a children's book and it has anything, to do with seasons, or if it's, spring or fall or what that looks like here, and it's just like a normal green puffy tree, or then that tree with like falling leaves. But
Yeah.
even not even like Colombia, but I've thought about like when my niece and nephew were in Florida, I'm like, do their children's books have like palm trees in them? Because our books don't typically have palm trees. Like,
Well, even one of my friends, she gave us the Goodnight Loon book, which I thought it was super thoughtful because we want her to know that her roots are Minnesota. And so like the little twist, I think there is it's a Goodnight Moon. That's the original one, but now they're like having all these different nuances depending on the area, which I think it's very cute and very, because kids absorb all of that. And we certainly want Allie to know that.
right, you're like, this is not like the landscapes look different.
Yeah.
So then I know you're kind of, like you said, you're kind of taking a break with the content and that sort of thing too, but still, how or when did you decide like that you were going to also share like your parenting journey, and how did that impact like your social media presence and followers?
Yeah, so very early on, when I was pregnant, actually, TikTok started serving me a lot of videos about kids of influencers now that have grown up. So my husband and I made a decision very early on, even before Ellie was born, to not show her face in my social media. I do show it on my personal one because it's for family, but on the Miles and Smiles one, I decided that it just wasn't the right thing because I signed up for this platform 10 years ago. I want to share my life. My husband has had a say on whenever he wants to be on it or not, but I feel like Allie is so young that she doesn't understand the internet. And then I kept seeing all these videos of like kids, like I was telling you, kids of influencers that have now grown up and like her entire lives were shared online. There's this one girl that talked about how much it was embarrassing for her to have her mom talk about the first time she had her period. Like, that's a privacy issue. You know what I
Right.
mean? Like, I think the one thing that we're all entitled now is privacy, and you get to choose what you share or not. And I want to give my daughter that benefit of like, whenever she understands what this is, and if she wants to be on it, great. But I think for now, I share things about her and you can see her, but not her face. And if you see me out walking, because there's people that have seen me at the state fair, and like, if you see us, say hello, don't, but like, in social media, having a platform, not that I have a huge one, but there's just so many weird people out there, and I don't know what they do with kids' pictures, and like, I'm very protective of that. So I just rather not do that for now. But sorry, going back to your question, my parenting journey, I it's been hard for me, honestly, to share it, because I don't know what it is. We're just trying to figure out what we want for Allie, the type of parents we want to be. As I told you, this first year, I feel like it was about surviving. Now hopefully we get to enjoy a little bit more of those things. And so the little bits that I've shared on my platform about being a mom and some of the things I have worked with Allie has been just more of like trial and error. And also because I have this fear of like, what if I tell something to someone and it doesn't work for them? Like, I feel like it's on me. So that's why I'm just so careful about what I share on social, because I know that there's so many people out there that really look up to influencers and content creators, and it's a little bit scary, because I've had instances where people reach out to me with really like life decisions, and I'm like, I don't know if I'm equipped to give you any advice. So I
Yeah.
don't know, maybe hopefully moving forward I can share a little bit more, with more owning it a little bit more, now that I feel like we're getting to a good place as a family, me as a mom, mentally I'm in a better place. But yeah, it's been a journey.
And like you said, I think it's important for everyone to remember and realize that like you said, this is something I tried. This didn't work for me, and then this is something I tried and this did work for me, but like for you it might be the exact opposite.
Yeah. Yeah.
So what would be then just like the final or like ultimate message you'd want to convey to other moms about just embracing their identities, who they are, their parenting journey, and just kind of that whole shift?
Yeah. I would say the biggest thing is it's okay to not have it figured out. It was very heavy on me, and maybe because of my type of personality, I wanted to know and plan everything. But like we were talking about earlier, just when you think you got things down, everything changes. And it's okay. It's okay. You just got to let go of previous routines. It just doesn't work anymore for your baby. It doesn't work for you. Great. Then you move on. Holding on to those things just like really brings things to a worse place that they need to be. I think motherhood is all about like being this fluid person, but also sometimes it's like you have to figure out when to become a little bit more and put those boundaries up. And your timing may not be the same as everybody else's timing. Like I was telling you, it took me a year to actually feel great about where we are with Allie and me as a mom. And sometimes I was a little like sad, resentful. It's hard not to compare yourself to other people online, because you're like, but she's thriving and why can I do the same thing? And that's just not healthy, but it's normal, it's natural. So go through those patches, but know that there is another side, and they're not showing the entire story. They're just showing what they want to show. Again, your timing is not everybody else's timing. Now, a year later, I'm very proud of all the work that I've done. So I hope moms out there that are still going through the thick of it, you're not alone. Please reach out if I can be a resource for anybody to talk about things. I think in the Midwest it's really hard to do that. Opening the door to like, hey, if anybody wants to grab a coffee and just like kind of vent out. 'Cause being a mom is hard. I actually found this really fun Facebook group called Bad Moms of Minnesota or Minneapolis.
Yep, I'm on that one.
Yeah. It's so great because it's just a lot of moms being real and asking for advice. And I've asked for advice there too of like, hey, I don't know what to do about this or what's the best product for X and Y. And it's a bunch of women that I've seen very supportive and they'll tell you like it is. I've seen some threads that I'm like, ooh, that's intense, but somebody needs to tell you that. So it's nice. Sometimes I feel like your friends will be just too nice to you or your family might be too nice to you. So
Yeah.
there's something about that group that is just so, I don't know how you feel about it.
No, I agree. It's just, I think it's, like you said, it's just like ripping off the Band-Aid, hearing the hard truths.
Yeah.
And also what I like love about that too is, like you said, you'll get, 15 ideas and some of them are conflicting with each other, but it's like, that's great. I can look at them. I can see what fits with my parenting style. I can see what fits with my home and lifestyle. And then I have options to try.
Right. Right. There's no one thing that fits for everyone. And I think that's the main thing that also my husband and I kind of disagree sometimes just because for example, recently we just had our 12-month checkup and the doctor said, okay, it's time to like cold turkey take out the bottles. Well, ideally, yes, we were also traveling for the first time with baby and we were doing we went through the sleep regression thing and it's just like, okay, got your advice, but I'm gonna take a couple weeks to do this in a different way, not cold turkey, just because. And again, it's just our perspective. I respect and I follow all the doctor's order when it comes to like medicine, shots, vaccines, all the things. But like when it's a huge thing that is going to impact our routine, I think it's super important. One of the things that I have always had in mind is, do I have the mental capacity to do this right now? Because being a mom is exhausting and being a woman is exhausting in this world. Is this the right time to take on this? And if the answer is no, then that's okay. If you need a couple of weeks, take it. There's no right or wrong of being a mom, so it's okay. I feel like there's this pressure of like society to do things one way, and there's not one way to be a mom.
And that's just it. There's so much information but at the same time, it just seems like there's such a lack of information.
Yeah. Same. Because there's so much, you don't know what to grab and what to keep with you. I found it, honestly, my best friend here in Minnesota, Andrea, she had a baby 9 months before I got pregnant. So she's been kind of like my path of guidance. And she has told me things that I didn't even know about being a mom or pregnancy or all these things. So like having that but obviously not everybody can have a best friend that has a baby right before you. So but finding just somebody that is a little bit kind of similar to who you are as a mom, as a person, has helped me a lot into this journey. But there are some things that she does with her baby that I don't necessarily want for Allie, or, it's just different and that's okay. But I have that perspective. So, but to your point, there's just way too much information out there.
And that's fantastic. And like I said, I love that we can, be friends with someone or look up to someone and model certain things and still be okay with knowing that like there's other options too. And I don't have to take every piece from one situation.
From a single source. Yep.
So with that, then I think that kind of wraps it up. And with what we're closing on, what we always tell the mamas.
Oh, do I hear a little one there? We hear a little voice.
Yeah. More. You can have more. And then, like we always say, mamas, until next time, keep doing your best. Thank you for joining me on this roller coaster of momming right here on Momma-Sota. I hope you enjoyed our candid conversation about all things parenting, where perfection is left at the door and real life takes center stage. Stay tuned for more heartfelt, unfiltered discussions in the next episode. And if you haven't already, don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review Momma-Sota on your favorite podcast platform. Your feedback means the world to us. Until next time, this is Monica Eichmann signing off. Keep rocking that mom life, and remember, you've got this.